Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Like Attracts Like podcast. I'm your host, Pat Mahan. We say it all the time. I've got to let that go. Or you see somebody struggling with something for a long time and you go to them and you say to them, you got to let that go. You've been holding on to that for way too long. You got to let that go. We're trying to move on ourselves. We're trying to do the right things. We're trying to help our friends. But does anybody actually know what that means? What it means to let go? What does it look like? Is it something that I can repeat the next time this happens? Is it different for each thing? What do I even do? We're asking ourselves to do something and then we're instructing other people for the right reasons, but with zero direction in most cases, not actually knowing how to let go of things. I spent a lot of energy on this aspect of the conscious evolution process, and in this episode, we jump right into the deep end.
Take a look at life from a different perspective. What if life is happening for you and not to you? This is the Like Attracts Like podcast with your host, Pat Mahan.
What is one of the main reasons that we can't find happiness or peace in a current moment? Because we can sometimes struggle with letting go, holding on to a past or a painful emotion or belief that loops itself around in your memory, urging you to revisit it and relook at it. It compares it to what's happening now or what isn't happening now in your life, and it makes you stay in this loop and that emotion affecting your overall outlook and vibe as you walk around in the now moment that you're always in. I like to call this the let go loop, and it involves your direct line to what you believe happiness is, where it lies, and the negative state that your mind can sometimes keep you in based on something that you should be maybe moving through or moving past. These loops and these patterns, if they go unchecked, could remain for someone's entire life. There are people that have never been able to move on from certain situations, memories, or ideas and beliefs that they've had that have limited them their whole life. What if you could realize that there is something keeping you in that loop and that it can be broken? The loop itself can be broken. The mental model that you use to understand and apply the process to break that loop is possible for anything, any idea, any emotional situation that you're focusing on. Granted that you have had the time to sit with the emotion and you're ready to let it go. So this is not something that you maybe are in the process of grieving or mourning or something that you're still trying to figure out the application of it in your life and why it happened to you. So this is beyond that. This is once you believe that you have found the perspective on the situation and you're ready to turn the corner, but you're struggling with letting it go. It keeps on repeating itself. There's definitely two different segments or levels of the letting go process. And the first part is after something happens to you that you're struggling with, it is trying to make sense and apply proper perspective so you can see maybe where the value lies. I believe that there's value in every situation that happens to us, no matter how good or bad. But trust me, I know how difficult it could be to hear that when you haven't found it in that situation that you are currently dealing with, or an old idea or belief that keeps popping up into your head. I think it's super important to note at this point that although we're talking about letting go, and it's the focal point of this episode, you can't really talk about letting go, what it means or the process or what it looks like to you or why you may be struggling with it without talking also about happiness and your idea of happiness and again where it comes from for you, because a lot of the things that keep us in this negative let go loop is what our perception of what happiness is, what our beliefs of happiness are based off of, what is the framework that we're working for when we are looking to let go, because it describes and defines our motivation for the very act of allowing the let go process to happen. Because the reason we're looking to let go is because we are looking to find a state of happiness or peace or of well-being. So we can't define and dissect and work with one aspect of this without defining and realizing what the end goal of the act of letting go is. We've talked about this on the show before, of course. A lot of us, we go through life and we're all trying to find happiness, some semblance of peace or well-being that we've been told exists as an emotion we can feel in this life. If you ask most people what their goals are in life, they will say to some general extent that they want to be happy. But most of them couldn't define what that means for them at all, if asked, outside of the old generalized mainstays of love and money in some fashion. People have either generalized ideas of what they want, so they get very generalized experiences back from the universe or from the world that they find themselves in, or they have very specific things that they want that they have predetermined and identified as things that will make them feel important or seen or loved or validated in some way. But they want them because they don't feel those things. They don't feel seen. They don't feel important or loved. So they live in a vibrational state of lack physically based on those beliefs. That's what they put out into the ether, and then that is the experience that they receive from life, the universe, whatever you believe this to be. That's the world that they live in. The universe will deliver what we are being, not what we tell it we want to be. It gives you more of what you believe you are, not what your egoic mind says that you need. But a human's frustrations in life can be more than just super vaguely not outlining specific things in life that they would like to do or be to feel satisfied and at peace. It's also that the model that they've been using and given to find happiness that they've outlined so vaguely is not correct. It allows you to experience states of happiness, but not truly understand where it lies, where it comes from, where it originates. It puts it outside of you in a future moment. Some achievement, some next level, this belief instilled to us since we were kids of when I get that, I'll be happy. Then it's when I get there, I'll be happy. It's always using some amazing present moment, preparing for some future thing or event that is going to give us this state of happiness, satisfaction, and well-being that we're craving. All of our amazing, precious, all we will ever have now moments are constantly being used as a way to create future happiness moments that when they arrive, we don't feel worthy of anyways. With enough of these cycles under your belt, you really begin the internal journey of where and what is happiness, who's defined it for me, and what do I need to do to let go of these old ideas that aren't serving me anymore, and the situations that those ideas have created in my life that are bothering me that I can't let go of. The first part is realizing that it's okay and it is all part of the process, and it really is the beginning of an awakening of sorts. You begin this path of awakening by realizing the fact that the happiness was always inside of you. It was never the thing. It was never the thing or the experience that you gave power to in this future moment, ruining a present moment with depression or anxiety. Now you can define what it means for you and realize that you can deliberately create your life and be happy and grateful in every now moment going forward. And you can do this as you awaken to this idea by understanding that everything that led you to this point of needing to let these things go not only happened for a reason, but they served a purpose. So as you go into align with this letting go process, two of the main things you can take with you is that you wouldn't have been able to awaken to the new idea and way of thinking if you weren't presented with the old shitty one first. You couldn't have it. It's two sides of the same thing. You can't have one without the other. So therefore, you can look at some of the things that you're looking to let go with a different mindset, a different framework, different glasses of awareness that can, if nothing else, even generally put you at ease, knowing that it had to be part of the process. You make friends with that part of you that had to go through that, and then it's one step closer to beginning the process of really, truly letting go, not suppressing and running and avoiding from, but really, truly letting go and being grateful for these experiences. In this society, it's not even enough to just define what happiness is and blindly search for it. We create different levels of happiness and constantly try to outdo the past thing that gave us the happy feeling, and then we create and experience different levels of happiness, which I think that is how life works. But what I don't think we're supposed to do is, in a state of happiness, downplay that state because it is not as high as a previous one that you have experienced. We can even sabotage good moments by comparing them to better moments that we feel we've had in the past, and then noticing that in this present moment, it is not, in our opinion, the same, which then brings us down to a place of less gratitude and actually will attract worse things to our awareness, which will continue that loop also. So my only advice that I've absolutely taken myself on this one is to not compare a present state, once you get there, to a present state of happiness. Don't let the thoughts of comparing it to a previous state or a future state that hasn't even happened yet, let that bother the vibration that you are in currently. That's one of the ways that we could sabotage our state of being by looking to the past or looking to the future. We're comparing even a good present state of happiness that we should be grateful for and allow that to build and grow with our energy. We actually take our energy and put it into comparing something else because we feel that is what we should experience all the time. But we have to allow the ups and the downs and the ins and the outs of life to present themselves in order for this to all make sense. It's about us allowing that to happen as we ride through this letting go process. The power here comes from realizing that happiness exists inside of you at the level that you allow it to. It's not something that can be measured or compared using a previous or a current or future experience in your mind. So now we take a deep breath and realize, where are we? We've had a life experience, a thought process, a belief, or something that has happened that has caused us to experience something that was unwanted. By experiencing something that was unwanted and feeling that emotion that it gave us, that negative pain, or sorrow or sadness or whatever came of this experience or thought or belief that we had, the second we felt that and experienced that, we created the equivalent emotion on the positive side at the exact same time. Because you cannot have one experience without there being the potential of the other. It's not two different things. It's not good and then bad and we let go of the bad. You couldn't have good without bad. You couldn't have bad without good. They are two different sides of the same stick. You would not know one without the other. They have to exist at the same time. So the potential for you to feel the equivalent of what you are feeling in pain does exist on the other side of what you're experiencing. It has to, because you would have no basis of comparison for why you feel the way you do. So you can strive to know it's not hopeless. It exists on the other side of letting go of what you're currently facing. Another thing that I think is really important as we define each part of this process is also defining what the word letting go means to you. Because of course we can always derive our own personal definition of these words that we choose to use in our life going through our emotions. So some of the things that people tend to think of when they say the words letting go or when they're trying to get someone else to let go of something or themselves, when you think of the words letting go, you think of not thinking about the thing you are trying to let go of. Or you think of distracting yourself with enough positive or negative things to allow your awareness to stay away from the thing that is hurting you the most. But you can then describe it in your brain, since you don't think about it often, as, oh, I've let that go. That doesn't really bother me anymore. When in fact, it's just an energetic avoidant method to suppress the very thing that you are trying to actually let go of and allow. So what I guess I would like to do is kind of maybe redefine or put a different spin on what you may think of when you think of the words let go or the idea of or the process of letting go. We're trying to move on. Most people would agree. Letting go would be a step in the direction of moving on. But I think what most people feel when they say let go is moving on without. I have to let go of something. I have to let go of someone. There's something holding me back and I need to let this go. And there's an instant feeling, and I had it myself, of moving on without. I've lost people in my life that were phenomenally significant to me, as we all have, and my process for letting go that I resisted for years was because I felt in order to let go, I needed to move on without. But I'd like to maybe suggest to view this or look at this a different way that causes less resistance. And it doesn't matter whether it's death or pain or trauma. The process of letting go to move on from creates a resistance from moving on, which creates the loop that we find ourselves in. So something that helped me tremendously was I decided that I was going to let go of these experiences and loss and things that I had done, decisions that I had made, the life that I was living, everything. I was going to let go of thinking those things didn't happen for a reason. I was going to let go of my need to believe that the world was a certain type of place based on no frame of reference at all, only my own point of view from my character. I was going to let go of thinking that I needed to let go of each individual thing, and this was going to take me forever, and that's why no one ever heals and gets past things, because there's so many. When you blanket this and understanding that you don't need to let go of each individual thing, you don't need to dissect and jump into each emotion and the pain that each thought brings, you don't need to do that. When you can blanket understand that these things happened in your life for a reason, that you couldn't experience the amazing things in your life if you didn't experience the negative side of those very things, because one can't exist without the other. Then you can start moving forward with a gratitude and respect for these things that have happened in your life. You don't judge them for where you are, but you see them and know that you wouldn't be at this point of your awakening and let go process without them. You couldn't. So now you start to form a relationship with these previous versions of you and these things that you are trying to let go of to move on from. And you can break the cycle and the loop of resistance by not moving on from, but moving on with. When you break the negative emotion that you held on to something that you didn't understand at the time, then you can keep it with you so that you can learn from it and you could grow from it. And with these people and with these experiences and with these losses and lessons in a new moment and create new things at a higher vibration. You're breaking the loop and the cycle of the work we think it takes to let go of something. So whatever we are dealing with, whatever we're facing, whatever we're going through, anticipating, regretting, whatever it is, try and maybe change the goal or the end game from moving on from, which creates resistance and a progressive loop, and change it to moving on with. And that involves allowing and understanding and a changed perception of a past pain or energy block that now, with a proper understanding, you've moved past the pain that you attach to the thought or the memory. This way you can use the references from this past thing, view it in a more present moment if you need, so that you don't repeat the same thing that caused you the pain the first time around. If you move on from, then it hurts to go back. That's because we think that letting go means that we try not to think about it anymore. But then, by saying that we aren't going to think about the one thing that we're not going to think about, we're thinking about it. The reason this loop exists inside of us is because as we go through a grieving process of letting go, whether it's death or pain or judgment, when our higher self has finally convinced us that it's time, that you've been with this long enough, that you've learned, you've grown, you've let this really lower your vibration, and therefore your outlook adjusts to that lower vibration, and then your higher self is now telling you, hey, it's actually time to grow and learn from this. One of those two things is happening in every moment that you are living or reliving in a painful moment or memory that you're trying to let go of. It's either really taking you down, and the new moment is saying, let's try to learn and grow from this, because you're in resistance to looking at it and what's trying to emerge from you, or you've done that work, you've gained your perspective, but even with the awareness of knowing the positive takeaways from the negative thing you went through, you still can't let go of it in your life. The reason the loop persists when you are actually ready to let go of this thing, but don't know how to, has to do with the level of significance that you've given the pain of that thought or situation, and to what degree you let that pain define you as a person. You aren't in most cases just letting go of the thing. You're also trying to figure out an identity going forward where this thing isn't a part of your identity, where it's not a part of you. Sometimes pain is how we get love. Sometimes being the negative person in your circle and the victim mentality that we can sometimes adopt gets us love and attention, and that's the mechanism for filling a void. It creates this paradox because there comes a point at the very edge of letting go and moving on and finding real freedom from your past experiences that we actually do experience letting go. And it feels amazing. There are moments where it comes up and you have the proper perspective at the right time, the stars align, but then a little voice creeps in and goes, but who are you now? Your mind doesn't have an answer, and the old story will run back to recreate the importance of the pain in this thing you're trying to let go of. And then you will fall right back into the loop of, yeah, I guess I just need more time, or I'm getting there, or this was a tough one to deal with and I'm working on it. All of the things in the statements are amazing and positive and progressive, and they're in the right direction. But a lot of them, when we're ready and still say them, can also keep us in this loop of someday I'll get better. One day I'll be happy. It really can be today. You can release yourself from the loops that you have spent time with and learned from by being fully aware that at the edge of letting go, you're going to do that thing. You're going to have an egoic narrative that is absolutely trying to use all of the thoughts it can to keep you in your loop. It is powerless without your emotional energy charge behind it. So when you say you've learned all that you may need to know from a thing, or that you're ready to move on from something, I'm proposing that the best way to possibly do that is to know that at the end of this loop, when you say, I'm okay, I'm not going to need to think of that anymore, I'm ready to let this go and do X, Y, and Z with my life. When the voice pops in at the end of that statement and says to you, but who will you be now without this pain? Who will you be without this need to fix this situation? Are you sure you don't need to jump back in and dissect it to more and really live it more? Are you sure it's responsible to not think of this thing that happened and let it get you down more? Do you deserve to feel better? I mean, it was a pretty bad deal or a pretty bad situation. It's almost irresponsible for you to not think this way all the time. You're being naive, reckless, and avoidant. All the things that your voice says, it's ridiculous, and we're all familiar with it. And it keeps us in this loop of needing to feel the negative thing that we are ready to learn and move on from. The answer to all of those questions is yes. Yes, you are ready. Yes, you know that putting positive energy towards the direction that you want to go will have better results than putting negative energy with situations that you have gone through that are keeping you in a negative state. Keep it logical and simple. Override them with these check systems that you have now, which can be simply that energy expands whatever you focus on, period, 100%. If you put energy into something, that part of your focus and awareness expands in your life. Positive energy in situations will grow and expand if you put and apply positive energy to them. It's the same with negativity. If you focus on the negative aspects of something and repeat these loops, you will stay in that loop, even if you think that focusing on it to fix it is why you are focusing on it. You're still coming down to the level and energy of that problem or situation or thing that you do not want in your life. Einstein said it best when he said you cannot fix the problem with the same level of thinking that you used to create it. You have to focus your attention and energy on positive things that you love, that you enjoy, that you want to experience in your life. And as you do that, you will raise your level of consciousness, and the available thought process that you will have will be more positive. So therefore, when you are looking to put a more positive spin on something that may be keeping you down or something that you can't move past, then you're applying a higher level of consciousness and awareness to this lower energy issue. And if you could do it from a state of non-attachment, so you're not experiencing and identifying the negative emotions, but you are aware of the negative emotions and then now can, from a higher level, apply solutions to them. That's how you will let go and dead the voices that keep you in this progressive loop, by always remembering that the focus needs to stay on the positive thing that you want, and as seldom as possible should be put into trying to fix an old situation. And again, to reiterate, this is after you believe you have learned the lessons that a previous event or situation was showing you and you want to move on. You are ready to do this, but you're staying in a loop. This is not, again, if you're really struggling with something and working on finding the dialogue and perspective, that is another video entirely. But this is the tricky one. This is the one that people find themselves really confused by because they logically and intellectually know that they are ready, but can't understand why they keep finding themselves in this emotional pattern. It took me a very long time and a lot of different books and people and really good, deep conversations to understand myself that this is what I was doing and that I was living in an identity that I wouldn't break away from because I didn't know how to live in the world as that person without that thing that I was always going through or experiencing. I didn't know how to be in this world without being a certain way, a not happy way, or an acting like I was happy, or knowing what I thought happiness was. Like, it was exhausting, and it took a culmination of all of the things that we talk about here to get me to see what I was doing and to be honest with myself instead of deflecting every time I was presented with something that could help me grow, because I wouldn't let go. So these things that I talked about in this episode, for me personally, they really helped me, and hopefully they can either put some things into a different perspective or new light for you, or maybe they can really help you and you can apply them in your life as well and begin to break free from some of these things that not only were meant to guide you, but really have you on the cusp of being able to apply such a positive influence in this life and inspire other people the way that you know you came here to do. We definitely covered a lot in this episode. So just as always, I would encourage you, if there was anything that you felt was valuable or anything you had questions on, anything that struck you in a certain way that you wanted to dive into deeper, please mark those times on a piece of paper. Reach out to us through any of our social media platforms. You can email me directly at likeattractslike11@gmail.com, and we'd be more than happy to continue the conversation and dive a little bit deeper for you. So until we meet again, have an amazing day, an incredible night, and a wonderful tomorrow. We'll see you next time.